a good question, though. And this data is published and it's available. You will see as I go through it, I will come up with numbers and so forth. Okay. So with I want to say this one about okay. One of the things that is important on photovoltaic systems, where we call it the spectral distribution, okay? Because every system, every photovoltaic module behaves depending on this manufacturing process and design differently to the actually electromagnetic spectrum. And I'll show you a little picture up there. Silicon-based device, including, crystalline silicon, it responds only to the visible light and the near-infrared portion of the spectrum between 300 to 1100 nanomicrons in here. Thin film modules now respond differently, and they have different types of responses. Some of the multi-junction devices, they use different kinds of materials, and in order to improve the spectral response. So when you look at here, and you say, what the hell you show me? So if I show you the whole spectrum in here of the amount of radiation that is coming versus the response, you see that the thin film responds only between what? Between here for 400 nanometers and all the way what? To the visible light, where the crystalline in here, silicon, it has a bigger response range. Ideally, and this is for the terrestrial response of how many over a period for an atmosphere of 1.5, which means the sun is sitting in an angle of 48 degrees and so forth. Now, what does that mean? Okay, what does all this stuff mean from the practical sense of view? So these particular devices in here are what? Better responsive than they are the thin film things. If we can make these guys increase all the way to down here, then we said, because this is what? Hopefully cheaper, but the response. So this is another method that manufacturers are working into what? Improving the modules themselves. So each one of them responds differently. Most of the ones that you buy now is this type. Okay. Now, how do we measure some of those things? Okay. How do you measure the solar irradiance? You measure it usually with a device that's called pyranometer. Okay. It comes from the Greek word a meter that measures the thing, metal, and the pyro means fire, so you measure the fire. Okay. It's just nothing more than what? A sensor that measures the total global radiation, which means a combination of what? Diffused and direct radiation. So if you want to move separately, you have to devise some other device. So they look at the whole sky up there. Some of you, as a matter of fact, some of you now, in your designs, you include one of them as a package, as a bellow and whistle, that you can actually measure that. Okay. They usually, you mount them right adjacent to the arrays up there, arrays, in the same plane, and they face in the same direction of the sun. So now what do? You know how much irradiation is coming, you measure it and you log it. Some of them, they tie it up to a system so that you can get a complete logging of how much you get. That's another way that you can actually tell the person how much radiation you get and how much output you get out of your system. Okay, and you can use and you can measure with this device, and I'll show you a picture of it, and then you can actually determine how much of your radiation you get at a specific location in a specific site. What does it look like? Yes, what does it look like? And there are different other kinds of them, right? You mount it up here, you bolt it on, you have some harness, you attach to it, and that's about it. This is one of the manufacturers that makes this device, and there's more than them. Any of you solar guys, do you install those things? No? No? You got it. You don't install them? A meter that measures the actual output, or a measure that measures the radiance? You don't install pyronometers. No?
It's more important what you've actually brought down.
Right.
After the panels have been up there.
So you measure the output rather than how much radiance you get.
Right, because say you have a tree there, you have shading, that may not be where that is. So
Okay.
you have a series of those
I've seen them installed in flat roofs quite a bit. Some of the companies, I don't want to mention, but anyway, this is a device that you can, I don't know what the cost associated with them. I think it's around $500 the last time I checked. Might be. Now, there are some methods now, since the pyronometer, it measures only total global radiation. Now, in case you want to measure diffuse global radiation, you have to do what? Couple things up there, and one of the ways you can do it, you can provide some sort of a shading, the pyronometer up here from the direct radiation component, and they call this a shadow band pyrometer. You're using some sort of a metal strips, okay, in the shape of the arc, so you're blocking it from direct radiation, and this one you can sort of utilize in order to be measured that. And one of the ways you do that, what that thing looks like, this is mounted up here, and you put those little shades in here, and blocks the direct component from the total. So now you're measuring diffuse type of radiation. Those are methodologies that some of these manufacturers use in order to be able to measure the type of radiation. Now, why would you need that? I don't know. Depending on the type of a system. What is it?
It's expensive today.
Well, because the picture is kind of because the picture is kind of large, or something looks expensive to you. In flat roofs, I've seen them quite a bit. There are some companies that I have sort of inspected and looked at it that they love installing all kinds of this bells and whistles, what I call, and they integrate them together. It's a good selling point, but again, depends on whom you're selling it for. There are some people, yeah, they're expensive devices, but you do what you have to do. Precision pyronometers use sometimes what? Thermopile type sensors, which is, I guess, thermocouples that typically output a certain amount of voltage proportional to the irradiance. Remember, the idea for having those little gadgets is you have to, a lot of times, educate the consumer or the person that you're trying to sell this thing what you're trying to sell them. And sometimes some of those people know a lot of stuff, some people don't know a lot of stuff. In the old times, some of the air conditioning guys, they would go to the register, they would feel it up there and say to somebody, see, it's blowing cold air, right? And then eventually they came out with those little thermometers, they would stick them up there, and then they would say, gee, see, the thermometer shows you a certain amount of time, the temperature. Then now they have those what? Those infrared type thermometers, they can sort of, shine them right in, at the ducts, and they say, see, you get 70 degrees here, 65 here, the system is balanced. So all these little devices, all this little bit of instrumentation helps you what? Actually educate to the person that the type of work that you're doing is important. And the type of system that you're selling, and you have a proof to them. How many of you, when you try to sell, you guys are electricians, right? You go to some Lutron classes and everything, and they give you those little attaché cases with the little Lutron things, and they say, you can borrow them, and you can go sell dimmers, energy efficient, or you can show them, we have them all multicolors, or if you can borrow from Bruce, he's got a little thing up there, all the possible, colors that they can sell, and all this stuff. Again, it's a selling point. The same thing with his gadgets up there. You show to somebody how much irradiance you get, how much the output of the system you get, all this stuff. It's helpful for them to make a decision. Remember, these systems are expensive; they're not cheap. Okay. You have all the types. You have other ones of these types of devices, so they're much cheaper. You have they use pyronometers. They use what? Silicon solar cell.